Hi, Douglas Mallon, author of Fact and Fiction. Just a little backstory on this chapter, Fall, which is where Danny Boy gets arrested for breaking in and entering. And that's rooted in personal experience when I was in my early teens, like 13. I grew up in Riverdale, it was a very affluent section of the Bronx. Right by the Soviet embassy. This is during the Cold War, 1976, actually, when this happened. Yeah, the Russian embassy is in Riverdale. It's a big giant white building with guards around it, and right up the street from there, it's a very affluent community. There's a lot of houses there, and me and a couple of my friends knew that this kid Richard, and his family were going to Florida, and we broke into his house, and we were just stupid kids. So like we there was a chess set. We took one piece just to ruin the chess set. We raided the fridge. I mean, we were stupid kids, but and then we did it again, and then we did it again, and the third time we got caught, and that was right around the time that the Rahway lifers were doing Scared Straight, and I had actually Scared Straight was on TV, and my dad made me watch. I'll always be eternally grateful to my dad, God rest his soul, because he made a lot of mistakes as a father, no question. But the one thing I'll always be grateful to him, because he was a corrections officer in Greenhaven, some maximum security in prison in New York, right outside New York City, Greenhaven. He was a corrections officer there, and my dad was just a rough guy. He was a tough guy. And he put the fear of God into me about what would happen to me if I ever got arrested and sent to prison or jail. It's just in the most graphic. I'm not going to even repeat, but it worked, and I never broke the law again. But interesting, it was 1976, and I think the second time we broke into the Kellys, we stole bicentennial quarters. It was 1976, and bicentennial quarters were all the rage. And we broke into the Kelly's house, and somewhere in there we found these bicentennial quarters, and and we cut school, and we went to the bank. We really went to the bank in our neighborhood, and my friend Ronnie, his mother's friend was a teller there, and she was like, "Ronnie, why aren't you in school?" And we cashed in these bicentennial quarters, which we did not know. And here's where it gets a little murky because so much time has passed. In the story, the quarters, the rolls of quarters that we cashed in had the Weinsteins, not the Kellys, the Weinsteins bank account number on them. Because sometimes people put their bank account numbers on pennies, nickel rolls, whatever, when they go cash them in. I don't think that actually happened. The way we got caught was we turned in those bicentennial quarters just at a bank, within walking distance or not that far from the Kelly's house. And that's how we got caught. So that's the root. That's where I got the idea. And just like most of the stuff I write is somehow rooted in actual experience. And this is a good example of that. So thanks for listening. I'll leave the link if you want to get the whole book. It's like $2 or $3, very cheap. You can get it on an audiobook. You can buy it in print form, or you can Kindle it if you want. So the link will be there. All right. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. From Los Angeles, adios.
21. Fall. He spent the day at Rye Playland all by himself. He went on all the rides and ate all the candy and ice cream and cotton candy he'd ever dreamt of eating. So what if Mrs. Aberman was the teller in the bank where he'd cashed in the quarters that he'd scooped up during the burglary? So what if she'd asked all those questions about where he'd gotten them? She was always so nosy about everything. And yeah, she'd probably tell Aunt Audrey that he came into the bank when he should have been in school, but he had a story for that too. You see, there was a fire drill at the end of 6th period. The fire trucks came and everything, and it took so long that the principal announced that 7th period was cancelled and that everyone could go home. He was getting pretty good at bending the truth. Brendan was an ace at the craft, and he was proving himself a quick learner under his mentor's tutelage. Like the new record player that suddenly appeared in his room, and all the new albums and the Kiss poster. You see, Craig, this kid from school, was moving to Florida, and his parents said he couldn't take everything because there just wasn't enough room in the truck they rented. So Craig asked Danny Boy to hold on to the brand new record player, and all the new albums and the Kiss poster too. And what about the watch? The gold-plated Seiko quartz stuffed in his pocket? He'd kept it hidden from Brendan when they hit the pawn shop. No need to worry about that, because there was no way he'd ever let Aunt Audrey, or anyone else for that matter, see it. He was sure he'd get at least 100 for it. He got back on the bus thinking he had every angle figured out. He was certain he'd found his calling: burglary. $115 for not even an hour's work. And what the fuck? Like the Weinsteins would miss a nickel of it. They had more money than God. So did everyone in that neck of the woods, and there were plenty more houses to go hunting in. And like Brendan said, you be careful, you be quick, and there's nothing to worry about. Only stupid guys get caught, and we ain't stupid, so don't worry about a thing. They already had their next target mapped out. Brendan knew the kid who lived there, and the kid let out that the family was heading down to Florida for 2 weeks. They talked about it after they divvied up the take at the pawn shop. It was top secret. Hush hush. Marty taught them that. From here on out it was Brendan and Danny Boy and no one else. He started thinking about that girl Kim, maybe asking her out. He could buy her something now. Maybe take her to Sam's and get her a burger and fries and a shake. He thought about asking her to come up to Rye with him, but he just couldn't pull the trigger. He promised himself he'd ask her the next time he saw her. God, ain't it grand to have some money in your pocket for once? Why not surprise Aunt Audrey with a pizza pie from Rizzo's? Yeah, she'd want to know where he got the money. But he wanted more than anything to be the hero. To walk in with the pizza like, "How do you do?" He made up his mind right then and there. Extra pepperoni the way Aunt Audrey loved it. He hopped off the bus and beelined for Rizzo's without a care in the world. 2 guys in suits with moustaches jumped out of a tan Impala that was double parked in front of Aunt Audrey's building just down the street. Danny Boy didn't notice them until they flashed their badges, and one of them said, "Daniel Patrick Sullivan." He thought about running, but for whatever reason decided against it. "I'm Detective Perez," the olive-skinned one said, "and this is Detective Levin. We'd like to ask you a couple questions." "About what?" "About that burglary you and your crew pulled off in Riverdale," Perez answered. "Huh, what?" "You know, the one where you burned the house to the ground." "In case you haven't heard," Levin jumped in, "Neil Nicholas died in the fire you set. You killed a 9-year-old boy. You must be pretty proud of yourself." "Huh? What?" Danny Boy answered, "I didn't start no fire. I don't know what you're talking about. I never robbed no one." And Perez moved in now and pressed the royal flush in the kid's face. "You walked into the Citibank on Johnson Avenue on the day of the fire and cashed in 4 rolls of quarters." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did, genius." Levin jumped in. "The teller identified you. She knows you by name." Perez moved a step closer. "We got an eyewitness and we got you on tape too." "Don't make it worse than it already is," Levin said, continuing their tag team demolition expertly. "So," Danny Boy answered, clearly shaken. "What if I did? What's the law against that?" And as Perez rolled his eyes with disgust, Levin grabbed Danny Boy, turned him around, shoved him up against a black Buick Regal, and began frisking him. "So far you're looking at burglary, arson and manslaughter too," Perez told the now completely terrified teen as Levin began rifling through his pockets. "My Aunt Audrey gave me those quarters to do laundry with, but I had some left over, and she told me to take them to the bank and cash them in. Just ask her." "Right," said Levin. "And the rolls you brought them in just happened to have Ed Weinstein's bank account number written on them." "You didn't notice that, did you, punk?" Perez said before Danny Boy could answer. "Well, what do we have here?" Levin asked sarcastically as he held up the Seiko quartz for all the world to see. That, Danny Boy answered, crying now. I found it. You found it all right, in Ed Weinstein's bedroom. Levin turned the watch inside out, and then pressed the inscription into Danny Boy's face. What does that say? He asked bitterly. And there it was in plain English, the inscription that Danny Boy just never bothered to notice. To Ed from Brenda, may our time together never run out. Happy 20th wedding anniversary. God, you're dumb, Perez said as Levin slapped the cuffs on the completely shattered teen and asked, You want to tell us who was with you, or are you going to take the fall for the whole damn thing?
I hope you liked it. Just additional thoughts. I'm using AI and I'm using the English lady voice. You'd think I'd use, like a New Yorker. These should all be talking like they're New Yorkers, But this AI on Audible doesn't have any regional. It has American English, Australian English, male, female. It has like 35 different choices, but they're all pretty much the same, except English lady, English man, Australian, blah blah. So there's really not. You would think they would have all different kinds of dialects. They will. They'll get there. It's still in its infancy. But I chose the English lady because she's just so soothing. That's why I think she's the most soothing. So that's why. And there's these little nuances where, it reads there's just these nuances where it's reading the written word and it just doesn't translate it. It doesn't have the intuition to, adjust. Not yet. So it gets a little bouncy from time to time, but nothing that serious. So that's it. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you come back, and I'll be posting a lot more chapters from all my stuff. All right. From Los Angeles. Adios.